Alright, how's it going, folks? It is Wits NFL here for... this is actually the second time I've done this tutorial. I just looked at my videos and what's doing well, and the tutorial I have for new players, the general one, is actually doing really good this month for whatever reason. In particular, maybe because of Tier 8. But I'm not too thrilled with some of those games. They're all very average, and I want to show people that, you know, the things that I mentioned in that video are going to lead to better things, usually. So I wanted to redo it. So this is basically going to be a general overview of World of Warships Legends for a new player in 2022. All the classes, what ships to pick, commanders, you know, and how to play the classes, essentially. I'm doing the three main classes: battleships, cruisers, and destroyers. I'm not going to get into carriers just because I don't do carriers. I don't like carriers. There's not anything really to teach on those either. So, with that said, let's first of all take a look at the ships, and let's go over all the different lines for all these nations. There are a ton of them, and there are actually more than what I talked about before. There's like one or two more since that video came out. So, first of all, the very first line in the game is the American Heavy Cruiser line. So cruisers basically are all about agility, you know, taking cheap shots, hitting ships from behind islands, you know, hitting them with guns frequently, setting fires, and dodging shells. They're not like tanky like battleships. You know, they can get nuked, so can battleships if you do the wrong thing, but instead of trying to angle, you're going to be trying to dodge shells or not get spotted to shoot at someone in the first place. This thing basically has 9 8-inch guns. They do very, very good with HE, very, very good with AP, but it has no torpedoes. I should also go over armor thresholds too. I don't want to overload you guys with too much, but it does have 27 millimeters of bow plating, which means it can bounce 15-inch shells if angled properly. So if you just sit at this angle, this is called bow tanking, and somebody shoots at your bow with 15-inch guns, they're just going to bounce the shells. They will not damage you. If they shoot the guns, they can knock your guns. If they shoot the superstructure, they can get damage off of that. But again, you're a cruiser, so if you're going fast enough, that's going to be a hard shot to place. Or if you're dodging, too. So that's just it's a great ship. You can bow tank some battleships at its tier, and the guns slap. AP absolutely slaps. It's the closest cruiser to battleship guns, is the best way I have of putting that, in my experience. Next up, we have the Cleveland. Cleveland, if we take a look, has lighter armor. This is a light cruiser instead of a heavy cruiser. The AP does not slap as hard. However, you get a better reload with 7 seconds space. It goes down to like 6.5, and with commanders you get it lower. For reference, the Baltimore has a 10-second reload. So basically you got 3 more guns and a better reload, which is better for 1, killing destroyers, and 2, HE spamming battleships. That's kind of like a tactic of high-tier cruisers. If you play the game, you may notice you get set on fire, and that deals damage over time. And if you play your cards right, you can set up to 4 fires at once on a ship, which will absolutely melt their health. So that's what this ship does, basically. It has less armor, but that means it's going to get overpenned a lot. You'll notice sometimes you shoot ships and do minimal damage. That is because, more often than not, you overpenetrate them, especially with cruisers. Not so much at low tiers, but at high tiers it happens a lot. Ships that you want to dev strike are just going to get away with 4,000 damage just because the shells pass right through. That does this a lot. It gets overpenned a ton. Against cruisers, though, it is not going to get overpenned. It is going to get nuked. So this thing is great against battleships, better against destroyers, but worse against heavy cruisers. At least that's the theory. Next up is the Iowa. Iowa is an American battleship, has 16-inch guns, great AA, the best AA at tier 7, if I'm not mistaken. 26.4 second reload with my current build. You can get that down to lower. The whole point of the Iowa is it is very, very accurate for a battleship. That's a thing that you'll struggle with as time goes on, as ships start to get inaccurate, not hit. You won't have that problem too much with this ship if you're running a dispersion build, which I'll get into what that means when I get into the commanders. But this thing is pretty solid armor, incredible guns, incredible AP, and it's just an overall good ship. The whole point of it is accurate, hard-hitting guns. It is arguably the best tier 7 battleships, but there's a few other ships that have their name in the hat too. Next up is the Kansas. It is not a real ship. It has 12 16-inch guns instead of 9. However, this thing's armor is a lot lesser. It takes weird penetrations, takes a lot of damage. It's slow. It is a lot more agile, though. And you get 12 16-inch guns. The reload is a little bit worse, too, at 29.9 seconds. So there is that. Still accurate. Not quite as accurate, though. Also, the shells don't hit the target quite as fast. That's another thing is that doesn't show on paper is how quick shells, get to the target. Slower hitting shells usually can lob islands better for island spam. So this thing can lob an island a lot more than the Iowa can. But it's harder to hit, especially cruisers. To hit a cruiser, you really need shells that get to the target fast. That's going to be your best friend. There are some ships that are better than others on that, and I'll go over them. Also, Fletcher, this is basically just an overall good destroyer. You have 10 long-range torpedoes. They do pretty good damage. Guns are pretty good. You can beat other destroyers with them. You get a long smoke screen. You get solid AA. It's just kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none. But again, it is pretty freaking good at all trades. Next up is Japanese heavy cruiser line. It's currently the only Japanese cruiser line. These things, the whole point of them basically are they do a lot of HE damage, and they also have a lot of torpedoes too. They don't have a great reload. This is base reload, so it can get a lot better. This, you see 15 seconds here. In reality, once you throw on a commander and skills like this one, it gets down to about 10 or 11 or 12. I think it's like 12 or 11. But the HE damage is very high. You do a lot of damage with the HE, and they penetrate really, really well as well. With as far as HE, 17% fire chance, which is above average by quite a bit. So it's a good ship. You get torpedoes on this one. They're long range at 11 kilometers, so you're not going to run out of range on those too often. It does get nuked if you go broadside. It doesn't get overpenned often. So there is that to keep in mind. Next up, the Amagi. This is a battle cruiser, not necessarily a battleship. There's nothing special about that. It's just its playstyle, I guess. There's nothing on paper that says this is a battle cruiser, so this is going to happen. It's just got light armor, high speed, and a lot of guns, so it's a battle cruiser, and that's what it was designed to be on purpose. There's no gameplay effect on that. Armor belt is 254 millimeters. Iowa's is 290 for reference, so it's thinner. It's the thinnest belt armor as far as any tech tree battleship. Now, if you angle properly, you can still bounce anything, but going broadside is going to lead to you getting nuked, sometimes in a single shot in this ship. However, it does have 10 16-inch guns. These are 16s in quintuple turrets. Quintuple dual turrets, so 10 total guns. Aside from that, it has... What does it do better than Iowa? Well, AP shell damage is not quite as good. However, the HE shell damage is a lot higher at 6,500. The HE alpha on this thing's nuts. AA is a lot worse. Maneuverability is a little better. The rudder shift is a lot better, actually. Concealment's kind of something that all battleships get now. Torpedo damage reduction is a lot better too, so there is that as well. And reload is that is a little better than Iowa at 26.4. So there is that. Next up, we have the Akazuki. Akazuki is a gunboat destroyer. I don't have it yet. I'd really like it. So what does that mean? That means the torpedoes are kind of an afterthought. Usually with destroyers, torpedoes are your main weapon. This thing, it's kind of guns. It's like a mini cruiser. You kind of sit in a smoke screen and HE spam, and then you get torpedoes too. You get 2 torpedo reload boosters, which basically makes twice a game you can get the torpedoes to reload in 5 seconds. So instead of like the standard minute. So you can imagine how useful that's going to be. You get a nice smoke screen, 3-second reload, and you can get that to be better too. The torpedoes, you don't get a lot of them, but they do pretty good damage, 17,000 per torpedo maximum. 10-kilometer range too, so they're long range. AA defense is really good. Concealment's pretty good because it's Japanese. Hit points are pretty good. And again, all that's going to go up once you get these upgrades. I can't show you what that is because I don't have it. You see, if you upgrade the torpedoes, it actually goes to 20,967 per torpedo. So that's a lot. And the hit points go up to 20,400, which is also a lot. That's like the second highest. So against other destroyers, this thing mops the floor with them. And it's a very fun ship, too. This is the Kaguro. This is a torpedo boat, which it's like the most torpedo boat you can get at Tier 7. Basically, you got 6 5-inch guns, which is pretty standard for destroyers, but the reload is not that great. They actually do a lot of damage. The problem is you have a 6.8 second reload and low hit points at 13,300. You can get it up to about 15,000, but you just saw the Akazuki had 20,000, which is 20% more. So, and a better reload. Half the reload. So you can imagine in a gunfight this thing isn't going to do as well. But instead of just a launcher of 4 torpedoes, you get 8 torpedoes. I think they do a little more damage too. No, it's actually the same. And you can swap the smokescreen for one of those reload boosters as well, which will reload you in 8 seconds, and you do twice as much damage in theory. So this thing is a torpedo boat. It's not going to do well against other destroyers, but against other battleships, it's hard to find a better destroyer. Next up, we have the British light cruiser line. So this line is a little weird. Most every ship you're going to have HE and AP. The Italians are starting to get SAP, which is basically armor-piercing damage with HE penetration characteristics. But I guess you'll notice the difference by firing both rounds, and you'll see what one, does well against what. So the Edinburgh only has AP. You might think that's a huge disadvantage because you lose the ability to get damage over time. However, it gets short fuse and insane penetration angles, so AP shells that would normally do nothing on other ships are going to penetrate with the Edinburgh. So it's very strange. You also get a sonar, which is really good, and you get a smoke screen, which means you could just pop a smoke screen and sit in it. You also have the option of getting radar, which allows you to pop a consumable, and for 30 seconds you'll detect any ship within 9 kilometers. No excuses. Doesn't matter if there's a mountain in the way, doesn't matter if there's a smoke screen, doesn't matter if they're just within 9 kilometers, they're getting detected for as long as that consumable lasts. So you can imagine for destroyers especially, that is a huge consumable. And I will mention, both the Baltimore and the Cleveland get that exact same radar. 9 kilometer, 30 seconds. Mogami does not get a radar. Edinburgh does. So, great AP. You get 3 torpedoes on each side, so not many of them. But you get 12 guns that do an insane amount of AP damage. A smoke screen that you can just sit in. What's the other thing? Pretty solid AA. Pretty solid. It's a 6.2 second reload, so it's pretty quick. This thing's technically a light cruiser, but it's actually... it does get nuked if you go broadside, so it does have that respect of a light cruiser, but you notice... We looked at Baltimore, which had 27 millimeters of bow plating. Cleveland, which had 25. I mentioned Baltimore can bow tank everything with 15-inch guns. It can't do 16s. This thing has 30 millimeters of bow plating, so it can bow tank everything with 16-inch guns. So there's only one ship at Tier 7 which does not have 16-inch guns, and it's a premium. It's the Georgia. It's not one you're going to come across often. So you can imagine how useful that is. You know, you just show a bow angle or angle to them properly, like this angle. You know, ideally you'd like to dodge the shells and have them hit your bow or something. They're not gonna do much damage. The other thing is, this heel is insane. You can reprint like half of your ship. Normally a heel is going to be like a little sliver of your health. This thing will reprint half of your ship. So that thing is crazy. That is one of the perks of the British line. British lines is the heels are crazy. So with that said, that's the Edinburgh. Next up is the Albemarle. This is supposed to be the British heavy cruiser. So you got 9 8-inch guns. I believe they're 8s. Yes, 8-inch guns. About the same reload as Baltimore. A little less AP shell damage. A little more HE shell damage. 17% fire chance. So very high fire chance. And that's without a commander too. So that can get even better. You get 4 torpedoes on each side that go up to 10 kilometers. So they're long range. Pretty solid AA. Maneuverability that can go up. That can go way up. That's another thing to look at with cruisers is maneuverability. I'll tell you, Cleveland, Baltimore, very agile. Mogami, Edinburgh, fairly agile, but not fantastic. This thing I don't know because I don't have it. I would like to get it. Pretty solid hit points. Bow is 25 millimeters, which means 15s go right through and can Citadel you through the bow. The only thing you can bow tank with 25s are 14-inch guns and lower, and you're not going to come across those except for 1-2 ships at Tier 7. It's mostly going to be Tier 6 that you see that. So, but aside from that, you have great armor everywhere else. So you got 27 millimeters. Watch the part that highlights. That's 27 millimeters, which means angled properly, you'll bounce 15-inch shells. You will get overmatched by 16s. You have a 30 millimeter deck, which means that that 16-inch shells are not going to penetrate straight through the deck. Georgia will, though. And Yamato will, but you're not going to come across that for too much longer when Tier 8 comes around. The other thing is the Citadel, the part that gets highlighted here, is raised above the waterline. So what does that mean? If we take away all this, the Citadel is the part of your ship that has the most hit points allocated to it. So if you get penetrated here, you're going to get nuked. Absolutely nuked. Most ships, like the Baltimore, are going to have it below the water, so it's very hard to hit. This is not. This is above the water. So it is not hard to hit. If you get caught flat broadside, you will get one shot. Easy. Or most of your health taken away. However, the converse to this, Baltimore doesn't have any part that's, above 27 millimeters above the waterline. This does. Which means, if somebody shoots this part of your ship, like let's say, you're showing a pretty good angle, they shoot at your belt, and you cut in towards them, so that way they hit the belt angled, you're going to bounce any shell in the game. Doesn't matter what it is. So, you can imagine that would be useful, because they're not going to get damage off of you. So I personally prefer it. However, I will warn you that is going to be a high skill wall play. It's going to take some experience to get to a point where you feel comfortable doing that and you can do that effectively. So, but the whole point of this thing is it slings HE that hits incredibly hard. Incredibly hard. You do get super heals too. So that's another thing. You get those same super heals that reprint half your ship. Yeah, and you get a radar too. So, it's a pretty good ship. In the right hands. Vanguard. This is the British battleship. This thing has 15-inch guns. This is the first Tier 7 we're going over with 15s. Whole point of this ship is just to be quirky and weird. So, short fused armor piercing, which means you're less likely to overpen cruisers, but also less likely to get citadels on battleships. AP's pretty good, but I notice it's a rare day that you get above 10,000 damage to salvo. However, it is a consistent 10,000 damage to salvo, so it's, you can take that. You get pretty good heals. They're not I can't say you'll reprint half your health, but that is a solid third or a quarter of your health per heal. And you get usually 3 of them. If you run a tank build, you get 5 of them. You get a reload booster, which cuts the reload in half for 15 seconds. So that means you can basically get 2 more salvos off per game at an opportune moment. So if you get a flat broadside, you pop that, you slap them with your first salvo, pop it, slap them with your second salvo, 8 seconds later, and then, you'll get another salvo in 12 seconds instead of the standard reload. Pretty solid hit points. Torpedo damage reduction sucks. Reload's really great at 20.8 seconds. If you remember, Amagi had 26, Iowa had 27, this is 20. Actually better AP shell damage than even the Iowa. And HE is insane. 5,800 damage a shell and 42% chance of fire, so it can slap people. HE is absolutely crazy on this ship. A defense is okay. Pretty solid. It's not terrible. It's a little more agile than the Iowa, but not fantastic. And it also is hidden for a battleship at 13.1 kilometers. This thing, I will say, if you get caught flat broadside, it does like to get nuked, so you got to be careful about that. Armor isn't fantastic. The turret firing angles aren't fantastic either, because you do end up having to show a very flat broadside to get all 8 guns off, so that's not really preferable. So it is a bit of a high skill wall ship, but as far as damage, the ability to output damage, I'm pretty sure it has the highest in the game as far as tech tree battleships. So in the right hands, it can be the best. What's up, Azuma? So we went over that. We got the reload booster. Next up is the Lightning. So the point of this destroyer, we went over other destroyers that had other consumables. This one has a ton of smoke screens that are short duration. So it's just kind of like an oh shit consumable. If you get spotted, you pop this, retreat, and leave. Or you HE spam for a little bit, and you HE spam for a little bit and then pull back. You get a sonar, which allows you, it kind of does the same thing as radar, but to a lesser degree, and it works on torpedoes too. So you can detect any ship at 3.5 kilometers, which is useful if you pop a smoke screen and there's another destroyer coming at you. You can shoot at them while they can't shoot at you. Hit points are a little on the lower end. Main battery, they have very good HE fire chance at 9%. If you remember, the Fletcher had 5%. So, you notice that versus cruisers, but this has also half the reload of a cruiser or a third of the reload of a cruiser, so there is that. Also, you're getting a lot more torpedoes, so you have that tool at your disposal too. Nothing special about these torpedoes damage-wise, and nothing too special there. However, what is special is you can launch these torps one by one. Normally, with torpedoes, you have to fire the entire rack. So if you have if you have 3 racks of 4, you got to fire a whole rack of 4, another whole rack of 4, another whole rack of 4. These torpedoes you can launch one by one. So if you want to launch 10 at the exact same spot, you can launch all 10 at the exact same spot. You could launch a single torpedo here, whatever it is, right? So that is very useful, especially for like permafloods, which I'll get into damage cons once I get into the gameplay. Next up, the German heavy cruiser line. So this is a little unique, kind of. We went over the Baltimore's armor. This thing has 27 bow plating, which means it can bow tank 15s. It also has an icebreaker bow down at the bottom, which is 40 millimeters, which means you can bow tank everything if they hit the bottom of your bow. So that's very useful. Also, you don't have a raised Citadel. Maybe slightly, but it is turtleback. I don't notice myself getting Citadel too often in this ship. However, on this side plating, you do get 80 millimeters of armor at that bottom. So that means not only do you get the bow tank 15s, but you get this nice little belt that if they hit the waterline and you're angled properly, you can bounce any shell in the game. Because it is above 32 millimeters. Anything above 32 millimeters, if angled properly, can bounce any shell in the game. The more, the better, usually. But in theory, it can do it. So that is nice. It's very well armored. This thing is a heavy cruiser. The whole point of it is it's got really good AP. It's very tanky for a cruiser. You get 9.6 second reload, so a little better than Baltimore. 8-inch guns that do better damage than Baltimore, if I remember correctly. And they have great penetration characteristics, too. Also, HE is not terrible. It has better penetration, so you're more likely to get damaged by hitting certain parts of a ship. Also, you get torpedoes. That's another thing. Not only can you bow tank 15-inch guns, you get 6 torpedoes on each side. They don't have a lot of range at 6 kilometers. However, if you get the opportunity to ambush somebody, you can dev strike 2 battleships, 1 on each side. AA is okay. Pretty solid for a cruiser, actually, for a German cruiser. I'm running an agile build on this thing, so it's very squirrely. You get to, just kind of dodge shells very well. It's pretty quick at 35.6 knots and 2.8 second rudder shift. Pretty solid. Concealment's nothing special, so keep that in mind. This is a great ship. Bismarck. 15-inch guns. Whole point of this ship is to be what's called a brawler, which basically just means you get up close, you get up down and dirty, and you slug it out with people. What does this thing do that makes it so special at being a brawler, other than other ships? Well, if you have played battleships before, you might notice that secondaries kind of suck usually. They're basically, once a destroyer's too close and they're basically going to kill you, they'll start firing it at that point. Not going to save your life a whole lot. Not going to do a whole lot of damage a whole lot. However, Bismarck is a different story. So, you get heals, you get a secondary enhanced targeting, or you can swap that for the standard other consumables, but definitely do the secondary enhanced targeting because of what I'm going to tell you. You get a sonar, which is very unique for a battleship. Very useful for a battleship. Not only get to detect torpedoes, but if you got a destroyer sitting on a smoke screen, you pop that, or if they're hiding behind an island, you pop it, and the sonars last longer than radars. This lasts 96 seconds, so that's a very long-lasting protection net. Pretty solid hit points, 24.6 second reload, so pretty solid there. What's special, what I was talking about, secondary range. Look at that, 10.2 kilometers, and you can actually get that out to about 11 if you run a tank build. I'm running a dispersion build, though. It's more of a hybrid build, but I digress. It is nasty, the secondaries. They shred destroyers, and if you start getting into 10.2 kilometers, 11 kilometers with other battleships, you're going to start shooting HE shells at them for the secondaries, which can light them on fire, it can do damage, it can do a lot of things. AA is not that fantastic. It's fairly agile, but yeah, that's kind of the whole point of the Bismarck is, you got those secondaries. Another thing about the Bismarck, which is worth noting, is it does not get Citadel'd often. If you know what you're doing, because it's got the turtleback armor, it's basically impossible to Citadel. Pretty rare that you get a Citadel on a Bismarck, but you can smack them for 10, 15, sometimes 20k. So, there is that. Up close, they are impossible to Citadel, and if you shoot the belt, you're actually going to get no damage at all. But there is a spot that you can shoot them that is going to slap them up close. A couple of spots in theory, but I have one that I think is better. Another thing is you got an icebreaker bow, so every other bow we've gone over so far is 32 millimeters on battleships, which means you can bow tank 16-inch guns. You can also bow tank Georgia. You cannot bow tank Yamato, though. That is a legendary tier battleship. It will punch straight through and can Citadel you. This thing, if it hits the waterline, it can bounce those shells, so that is useful to know. Also, we went over, it doesn't take Citadels often, so it is a little more forgiving, I think, for new players. It's not a bad first tier 7 battleship for new players. Personally, I recommend the Iowa, but Iowa, if you go flat broadside, you'll get nuked. But it is less easy to chunk than Bismarck. But if you're having problems getting one shot, going with German battleships is not going to be a bad thing for you. Next up, Z-23. So this destroyer, basically the torpedoes don't do a whole lot of damage, but they reload pretty quickly. The guns are very big at 150 millimeters. That's basically light cruiser guns. The other thing is you get a smoke screen and you get a sonar. This sonar is better than the Lightnings, though, at 4.4 kilometers. So there is that. Only 8 torpedoes, and they don't do a lot of damage to the second weakest torpedoes at Tier 7, but they do reload in only 68.4 seconds. So, and it's pretty hidden. It's, again, another jack of all trades, master of none, but the sonar is very useful against other destroyers. So, it's a very good ship. Next up, France. You have the Charles Martel right here. Morning, Death Star. Charles Martel basically is an agile cruiser, so you run an agile build and you're very squirrely, hard to hit, which is nice. It's very fun too. You get a sonar, you get no radar, you do get heals though, and an engine boost, so you're pretty quick. Again, the whole point of the ship is basically to be agile. Basically 9-second reload, and once you actually get it. You get torpedoes too, 10-kilometer torps, which is nice. AA, pretty bad. Right now is a 12.4 rudder shift, but again, I don't have the whole upgrade or this upgrade or this upgrade, so 12 minus 60% take you down to about 5, and then you have this will take you down another 3.9 seconds. So, you know, really with an agile build, you're looking at better than Hipper even is. So it's very squirrely. AP is very good. HE is also very good. Not a whole lot of fire chance, not a whole lot of damage, and on paper it is one of the weaker ships. But the guns work, man. They do, from what I've seen. So nothing special about the armor. You get overmatched by everything. Technically, you can bounce every shell with that thicker belt armor. However, raise Citadel. So you go broadside, you get nuked. Also, it's thin armor, only 100 millimeters, so there's that too. So you're going to get nuked if you don't dodge those shells properly. Keep that in mind. Richelieu. This thing, man, I got a lot to say about this thing. So you'll notice weird turrets. See, up in the front, you have 2 quadruple turrets, and there's no turrets in the rear. So all your main guns, these are secondaries back here. All your main guns are up front. You have 8 15-inch guns, and this is a weird-looking ship, but it was actually a real ship, believe it or not. 8 15-inch guns. You only get 3 heals, so don't worry about that. And you also get an engine boost as well, so it's quick. Lower hit points, rather. But 24.4 second reload. Pretty solid, well, lower than average AP shell damage, a little lower than average fire. That's actually average fire chance. AA is okay. Speed's really good. Maneuverability is pretty solid. Concealment is the same as everything else. So, you know, basically, why is this thing so special? Nothing about that seems better than Bismarck or better than Vanguard. You know, there's nothing special about that on paper, right? I agree. But for whatever reason, this ship just has so many undescribable good aspects that I personally think this is the best Tier 7 battleship in the game. So, some of the things that I can describe to you. 1, very fast shells, so it's easy to hit targets. Hard for cruisers to dodge. Also, because they are very fast, that also means the penetration is crazy. So, you get a ton of Citadels. Even though they're not doing as much damage, they're still going to hurt a lot, and sometimes you're getting 2 or 3 Citadels per salvo. So, you know, it's kind of like, it's just, you're getting a ton of Citadels with this ship. It's the best way I have of describing it. Also, you have all the guns up front, so you don't have to give any particular angle to get a full broadside off. And also, the guns, they turn quickly, too. So, you're constantly going to have a shot on something, basically. And you don't have to worry about angling. You can literally just bow tank the entire game. Another thing, if all that wasn't good enough, because, again, I can't describe to you how good this thing is, and if you're a new player, you're looking at this, you're looking at Iowa, and you're like, Iowa shits on this thing. I can't blame you for looking at that on paper, but I'm telling you, this thing's just better. I don't know what it is. The other thing is the armor is really, really good. It's actually the best armor in the game, I would say. So let's just go ahead and remove all this. So Citadel is barely raised above the waterline. However, you get this 330mm weird V-looking casemate, kind of like Bismarck. So basically, only this one has a wider gap in between the actual part and the Citadel. What does it do? It basically means you're not going to get Citadeled. This thing gets away, like you can straight up sail flat broadside to battleships, and 9 times out of 10, the worst they're going to do to you is 10k. And this thing isn't as easy to chunk as Bismarck. A lot of times you'll get hit for 8k or 6k. It's just so trolly. It is so tanky and defensible. And because you constantly have all guns over the front, and they have great penetration characteristics, it racks up damage like that, man. Also, the ability to relocate too is great too, because of the high speed. I can't describe to you how good that thing is. I just can't. Le Fantasque. In a game that has no carriers, this thing's fantastic. In a game with carriers, this thing is fucked. So, it also takes a bit of high skill wall. You get an engine boost consumable, pretty standard for destroyers. You get a main battery reload booster, which is weird for destroyers, but great, because basically means you can melt 1 destroyer per game, usually. Pretty solid hit points. Reload is 6.6 seconds, so a little on the high end. They're a little big guns, 139s. Not as big as the Germans, but still pretty big. And pretty solid HE, shell damage, but they have great penetration. Torpedo Launchers, very quick reload, pretty solid damage, and they're blisteringly fast at 74 knots, so they're hard to dodge. Not great range, though. AA sucks. Absolutely sucks. Which is why I say in a carrier game you're screwed. Very fast, though. 44.4 knots before the engine boost. So there are some torpedoes in this game. You can actually outrun them, which is nuts. So keep that in mind. It's also pretty hidden, too. One thing you'll notice here, as far as consumables, that it's lacking is a smokescreen. It's the only destroyer in game without a smokescreen. So, as a destroyer, smokescreen is a very good, bailout tool. You don't get that with this. You just basically have to outrun them. Which is another reason why I say against carriers you're screwed. You can't hide. You can't pop a smokescreen and hide. Your AA is not going to save you. So, there's that. Also, a weird torpedo layout. Take a look. You got 1 triple back here, and then 2 triples here, but they aren't mounted in the middle, which means you can only get 6 off at one side at a time. So you might think that's a bad thing. However, what it forces you to do is space out your torps. You can launch 6 at somebody, and then another 3 at somebody. So it also means that you can launch at 2 different targets. However, another thing you can do is launch 6, hit them with a couple. They'll get flooded, so they'll have to burn their damage con, and flooding is devastating. If you get perma-flooded, it's going to lead to your death, basically. And then you pop the other one. After they've already damage conned that flood, you're going to smack them with more torpedoes that do a lot of damage, and it's going to cause flooding, hopefully. So it forces you to be more strategic with your torps. So it's pretty cool. Next up is the Russians. They have the second most ships in game, but there's only like 5 of these ships that were actually real. Why does that make sense? I don't know. Ask Wargaming. They just gave them all these ships and none of them existed, basically. So, let's start this off with the Chapayev. This thing is basically a Cleveland that isn't as good as lobbing islands, but has better shell velocity. And better AP. AP is pretty solid, I will give it that. You also get torpedoes, too. They're only 3.7 range, so that's basically nothing. But if you get YOLO rushed by a battleship, you get... what is this? 3 of them. So it can save you. AA sucks pretty much. Rudder shift is pretty average. It's like it's about the same as Cleveland, I would say. Once you get it upgraded, it's an HE spammer basically. It's lower than average HE shell fire damage or fire chance, but you have so many shells going out. It's demoralizing. Aside from that, you get nuked if you go flat broadside, raise Citadel, so you got to be careful about that. It's an HE spammer. So, and then consumables, you get sonar, which pretty average sonar. You get an interesting radar. Personally, I prefer the other radar, but I'll go over this and its quirk. So this radar is 11.7 kilometers. You'll notice the other radars were 9 kilometers. This one is a lot farther range. However, instead of 30 seconds, it's only 20 seconds. So the other part of that is if a destroyer is farther out than 9 kilometers from you, most of the time they're going to be kiting away and running, which makes them hard to hit. So the further away you are from the destroyer, the harder they're going to be to hit. It's, so with only 20 seconds to shoot at them, and, with them being hard to hit at that kind of range, I think it negates the benefit of it, personally. But I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder. Riga. Gosh, I hate this thing. This is the 1 Tier 7 tech tree that I will say sucks. And that's unfortunate because I misjudged it. I really, really hate this thing. So, you have 9. They're not 8-inch guns. I think they're 9-inch guns or 10-inch guns. Whatever. No, they're 9s. 2 20s. They do a lot of damage. AP shell damage is 6,038, which is very high. However, reload is also very high at 14.5. It goes down to like 13.6, but that is high. HE shell is not fantastic either. So, it's not terrible, but it's not fantastic. You're not going to be burning people down. I guess the whole point is to be able to Citadel battleships. I don't think it does that too well. The guns are not accurate. And it also leads to you overpenning cruisers, kind of like how battleships do, which is very frustrating, man. AA is okay. Maneuverability sucks. It's the turning circle. The rudder shift isn't terrible, but the turning circle is battleship-esque. So to make a full circle, you're looking at the same circle as an Iowa, basically. 42,000 hit points, pretty solid. Armor, you get an icebreaker bow. 25 millimeters above that, so everything can overmatch the top half. Nothing can overmatch the bottom half. Let's go over this. That is our Citadel. Right there. So it's raised. So in theory, you can, bounce shells, right? However, the problem is to do that effectively, you need to be agile. And this thing's not that agile. 5.5 rudder shift is not great. So it's going to be a lot harder to, have them hit the belt at a proper angle. And it leads to you getting nuked a lot. It's a very difficult ship to play. Personally, I don't recommend it. This is the one ship that I will say stay clear from. There are some people who like it. That's fine. But even on paper, this thing has the lowest DPM of any of the ships. So, and it's got the lowest damage record too. I don't like it. On paper, it's not that good stats-wise, and records show that it is the weakest link as far as Tier 7 tech tree cruisers too. There are going to be people who will call you a fucking idiot for calling it bad, but again, nothing on paper says it's good. Records don't say it's good. And if you're a new player, you're going to hate this thing. I promise you. I promise you. Something unique about it, though, is it does have 7.3 kilometer secondaries base. So you can run a secondary build on this thing, get it out to like 11 kilometers if you want to. It's kind of memey, but they don't do a whole lot of damage either. Next up is the Vladivostok. So, as you can imagine, neither the Riga or the ship existed. I think the Chapayev might have existed. I don't remember. You have 9 16-inch guns. This thing's very long. You notice how long that bow is. Originally, I'd heard they were going to be putting 3 guns up front. So, I don't know. But they left it. It's got a traditional layout. So, let's look at it. You get 1 less heal than average. it's got the highest hit points in the game as far as Tech Tree Tier 7 battleships. Little higher reload than Iowa at 27.5 seconds. AP shell damage is, I think, the highest, actually. Maybe a little lower than Vanguard. I don't know. HE shell is pretty good, too, at 6,000. That's about what Amagi had, so pretty solid. Secondaries are pretty good if something gets in range. AA defense, turning circle, pretty bad. It's like the Iowa. But rudder shift is better than the Iowa. So, concealment, it's a battleship. Don't worry about that. So, let's look at the armor. This is kind of like, let me go over what draws people to this ship, why you should run this ship. I think this is a fantastic ship. You'll notice how wide that belt is, or the bow is. So, it bounces shells like nobody's business. At weird angles, even like this angle, you're going to bounce shells. They're going to shoot at you, they will get nothing. Now, the converse is raised Citadel, very thick belt armor at 370 millimeters, but raised Citadel. So if you go flat broadside, it is not uncommon to get one shot. And I don't say that as a meme. I mean literally, if you go flat broadside and you get hit by something with some punch, you will get one shot. Full health, doesn't matter, you will die. Or you'll be left with like 2,000 health. So, you gotta be very careful in this thing. Very spatially aware, very careful. However, with that said, there is nothing in the game at Tier 7 that is more terrifying to have just sitting at you, bow tanking, or angled. It is so frustrating to go against because it is impossible to damage. So, in that respect, incredibly good in my book. Also, very, very high penetration. This thing has the most penetration of any of the Tech Tree Tier 7 ships. Also, very high shell travel velocity, which also is what gives it the high penetration. What does that mean? Well, 1 means the great penetration. 2, it means if you're a cruiser doing the whole agile cruiser thing and you get shot at by one of these, good luck dodging those shells. You're going to have about half the time to dodge the shells you would normally. From this to the Kansas, you're going to have like half the time to dodge the shell, basically, because the shell travel time is a lot quicker. It's actually more like, 30 or 40% less time, but it's significant. And is going to lead to you getting caught off sides a lot. And, again, the guns, they work. They hit hard. So it's very good. Very good ship. Udoloy. This thing, the Russian destroyers are basically gunboats that, the whole point is to beat other destroyers, be tanky, open water gunboat, spam, HE spam, stuff like that. This thing does get 15 torpedoes, though. They're not long range. And you get heals, too. That's another thing. Very good hit points, too. Reload is not fantastic, so keep that in mind. But they hit hard, you have a ton of hit points, and you got 15 torpedoes. They only go up to like 7 kilometers when they're upgraded, but still, 15 at Tier 7 is a lot. They don't do a ton of damage, but again, 15. I can't say that enough. 8 kilometers, so you don't have a whole lot of like range to play with, because you're normally going to have like 6 kilometer detectability, but you're launching 15 torpedoes that reload in 100 seconds at battleships, so good luck with that. 18,800 damage per torp, so that's pretty solid too, I guess. Or no, I'm sorry. 15,100 damage per torp, so a little low, but still. Very good. Definitely could recommend this. The Takshent is a little more high skill wall. It's probably the highest skill wall destroyer because it only has 9 torpedoes. They don't do a lot of damage. Actually, I take that back. 17,900. That's pretty solid. But low range. So there's that. And then the other thing is the guns. Guns are very good. They do a lot of damage. Well, I'm sorry, they have great penetration. They're great for HE spamming. And then your ship is tanky. A lot of hit points. AA defense sucks. Loadout, you can swap the smoke generator for the heal. So the other one gets smoke generator and a heal. This one gets either or. When you upgrade it, let's see. That's about average HE shell damage. 8-kilometer torps, low damage torps. Low detectability though, so they're hard to dodge. So there's that. 21,500 hit points. It's very hard to beat this in a gunfight, a fair gunfight. I'd say Akazuki's the only one that's going to give it a run for its money. So it's just kind of like an open water gunboat. It's the whole point of this ship. So that concludes all the Russian paper ships, of which basically none of which existed. Next up is the Italians. So here we have the Amalfi. Amalfi, whole point is to be agile. Kind of like how we mentioned with the Charles Martel. Low damage on paper ship, and it is a weaker ship, I'm not going to lie to you, but it is very fun. I love this ship. It's personally, I'd say it's my favorite Tier 7 cruiser, even though it's not great. Icebreaker bow, but it is basically useless. If you get punched through the bow, you will get Citadel'd and possibly Dev Struck. Raised Citadel. So you get caught flat broadside, you'll get Dev Struck. However, it does mean you can angle against every ship in the game, and because this thing is so incredibly agile, we'll just show you what my build has it at. 3.1 second rudder shift and 680 turning circle, which is very small. Plus, combine that with the 40.4 knots, that's where the agility comes into play. Like, this thing's so blisteringly fast for a cruiser, and you get such a low turning circle, plus the low rudder shift, it's so squirrely. It really is. AA is on the weaker end. Detectability is a little lower than most at 10.9 instead of like 12, so that's nice too. Torpedoes, you get 8 of them. 2 quadruple racks on each side, low damage. They're low detectability though, at only a kilometer, so they're hard to dodge. 12-kilometer range, very slow though, 51 knots. So I take these and I just dump them into caps, honestly. And also because of the consumables that I'll go over in a second, they're very good. HE fire shell chance is 17%, pretty solid, but 13.3 reload, not that great. So there's that. 4,800 AP shell damage is pretty solid too. So average hit points. Let's go over consumables. So no sonars, which kind of sucks. I wish they'd give it an option for a sonar, then it'd be a little more competitive. You get heals, you get catapult fighters, which is nice for carriers. Interesting consumable here, rolling smoke, which basically means instead of a smoke screen you just pop and sit in, because it doesn't last long, you can go full speed ahead, pop this smoke, and you won't outrun the smoke. Most smoke screens you will. You need to go like a quarter speed to actually deploy them. This thing, you can go charge full speed ahead, and it'll keep keeping you concealed until it runs out. So there's a few uses for that. 1, ambushes. You can imagine if you're going in for a YOLO rush on battleships, very useful. 2, sneaky up on destroyers, very useful. Combine that and the speed of this ship, it's going to be hard to outrun it in a destroyer. 3, if you're kiting into a battleship, dodging, doing the whole agile thing, and you're going into a battleship, you start getting too close, you pop this, turn around, and then you're good to go. So there's a lot of uses for it. And I love this ship because it has that consumable. Right now it has AP and HE. If and when they ever add SAP, this thing is going to become disgusting. So, but for now, it is a little weak, but very fun. Vittorio Veneto. So, I kind of misjudged this ship at first. I said it was the weakest link. I personally am now back to the position that I would say... What is the weakest link? Arguably still this. I won't lie to you. For most people, it's going to be this. However, another name you're going to hear popping up a lot is Amagi. I disagree with that. Vanguard, you may see come up too. I could somewhat agree with that, but in the right hands, it's very good. So, kind of like the Vladivostok, you angle properly, you're going to bounce everything. You angle improperly, you'll get one shot. However, to a lesser degree, it's not quite as thick belt armor, so you'll get penetrated at this angle, where Vladivostok wouldn't. You'll get Citadel at this angle. But if you go at this angle, you know, they're going to get nothing, basically. So a few things that are very good about this ship. Hit points, pretty average. Torpedo damage reduction, pretty good at 43%. That's actually very good. 25.8 second reload, so pretty solid reload. Not fantastic, not terrible. HE shell damage, 5,800. HE shell fire chance sucks. AP shell damage, 12,000. Low. Secondary range, 7.5. That's actually average for a secondary build. However, this thing gets SAP secondaries. So, remember how we talked about, you know, HE shell penetration characteristics, but AP damage? So you can imagine going up against things that get close, they get absolutely shredded. Destroyers, if you try and YOLO rush this thing, you will get shredded by its secondaries if the main guns don't get you. Secondaries are very good. AA defense, a little weak. Maneuverability. Now for a battleship, fantastic, man. 30 knots, pretty good speed. 15.5 rudder shift, pretty average. You can get that down if you change the the propulsion mod for the rudder shift mod. You get it down to like 13. But the turning circle, 810. It feels like a cruiser. It really does. Concealment, it is below average too at 13.1, so it is very hidden. Another couple of things. The turning radius, or the 180 degree turn time of the guns, is the best in the game as far as battleships. It's cruiser-esque. They relocate quick. Also, they penetrate a lot. They're like Richelieu guns. They just get Citadels, man. It just works. So, I love the main guns in this thing, and I love it as a tank build. If you run this thing as a tank build, another thing, you get 6 heals as a tank build instead of 5, so you get a ton of heals. And the icing on the cake here, you get the same exact rolling smoke generator that the cruiser gets. So, again, same uses apply. Ambushing, you know, destroyers, sneaking up on battleships, turning around. You know, so many things that this is good for. And on a battleship, it becomes even more useful than on the cruiser. Incredibly, incredibly good. So, very fun, but very high skill wall. Next up, Pan-Europe. So, this is only a destroyer line for now. They're probably going to add cruisers at some point. This is the Australogon. So, this is a bit of a high skill wall ship, I won't lie to you. Like Kleber, it has no smokescreen. However, this thing has monstrous AA. So, it also gets heals. Not great heals, but it's heals. So, let's go over it a little bit. 18,040 hit points. Pretty solid with this build. 2.5 second reload. You could get that down to like 1.8 if you really wanted to be a full HE spammer. I went with a Torp build because, you know, I like the Torps too. But very quick reload. Not great penetration, not great damage, but very quick reload if nothing else. Hang on. Shit, I thought I had to sneeze. I guess I don't. Torpedo Launchers. Lowest damage torpedoes in the game, 10,893. However, take a look at the range, 13.5 kilometers. Infinite range. You just chuck these into caps, and, you know, you may end up hitting something. Also, look at that torpedo speed, 90 knots. They are blistering. They are impossible to dodge. If you don't know these torpedoes are coming, and you see them, you're screwed. You will get nailed by them. Also, very narrow firing angles, too, so... You know, that's another thing, is you can shoot these torpedoes at ships, and they're going to be very hard to go in between, too. So that is nice. You only get 8 of them, though. And again, keep in mind, they don't do damage. They do very low damage. So your whole goal is basically going to be, if you get an opportunity to slap somebody, you can. You're not going to dev strike somebody, usually. But permafloods, very good for permafloods. Also very good reload at 73 seconds for the Torps. AA defense is incredible for a destroyer. Not only do you get, you know, this kind of damage, it's 75 AA rating, which is basically cruiser AA. You get defensive AA fire consumables, which means you're going to shred through planes, basically. So, very good against carriers, however you don't get the smoke screen. It's pretty quick. Well, actually, it's not terribly quick. I lied. So, the whole point, you get very quick firing guns and very quick torpedoes, very quick firing torpedoes. So you're trying to get damage over time with it. And the most important thing is it's the best AA destroyer in the game. It's the best counter against cruisers, or I'm sorry, carriers in the game, except for the other Pan-European destroyer, the Friesland, but that one does not have torpedoes. Next up is the Pan-Asian destroyers. I don't have these. I'm kind of interested in them now, I guess. This is basically a Benson, the Tier 6 American destroyer, but with some quirks to it. So, you get an extra smoke screen, one more smoke screen than normal. Basically, it's lower hit points than normal, 15,500, so it's weak. 18,000 torp damage, 10 kilometer range, but look at that detectability, 0.7 kilometers. So it's very hard to spot those torpedoes. So you launch those at battleships, by the time they see them, it's too late. However, the thing about those is they're deep water, which means they're impossible to hit destroyers. And I don't mean that figuratively. They literally cannot hit destroyers. They pass right under the ship. So very hard to dodge in a cruiser or a battleship, but, you know, that takes away one of your tools against destroyers. Reload is pretty good at 3.3 seconds. Guns aren't terrible, but you get it's a Fletcher with one less gun, so keep that in mind. Torpedoes, we already went over that. You know, very hard to hit, very hard to dodge, which is nice. So it's a torpedo boat for sure. AA defense, pretty average. That's average. That is also going to be average. Consumables, you can swap the smoke screens for radar, which I have mixed feelings about because, you know, this thing, I don't think it's going to beat destroyers in a fair gunfight too often. And without the smoke screen benefit, you know, I don't know. I don't know that it's useful. Only 15 seconds, 7.5 kilometers too. So you're basically getting to radar a ship for a few seconds, maybe scare them, but I don't know how I feel about that. So that's every line in the game, guys. I went over the point of every single one of these, so you can pick for yourself which one to go with. If you're wondering my recommendation, personally, I think the best one to start with is going to be the American lines, no matter what. I think the best overall battleship line in the game is this one right here. I'll tell you that. I don't think there's a bad battleship line or a bad battleship in this lineup. I think they're all fantastic. The best cruiser line in the game. I gotta say, I think I'm gonna have to say the German one. That's the best overall cruiser line in the game. And then the best destroyer line in the game, I guess, I only have a few of them. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind about that one. Probably the Americans, if I had to guess. Just because none of them are really bad. So, I'm just going to go ahead and say the Americans. So yeah. That's it. Let's go ahead and get into some gameplay here. I'm going to take you through a game of each class and hopefully do better than the previous tutorial did. I'm going to take you out in Tennessee. This is a Tier 5 American battleship, 14-inch guns. 12 14-inch guns. You get 25 millimeters of bow plating, which, if you remember right, we said that can bow tank 15s, but 14s and below. Well, I'm sorry, you can bow tank 14s. Anything. I'm tripping myself up. No, you can bow tank 14s, but you get overmatched by 15s. So there is that. Which 15s are not uncommon at Tier 5, Tier 6. But I don't think it's too much of a problem. So, oh yeah, commanders. Let me go over that real quick too. Morning, Battleship Missouri. I'm just going to go over the different types of commanders for each class. So there's going to be 2 types of battleship commanders, 2 types of destroyer commanders, 2 types of cruiser commanders. For the Americans, Willis Lee is going to be your tank build. What is a tank build? Basically gives you options for reduced fire damage, getting up close personal with secondaries, like skills like this that give you better range, better accuracy with secondaries. They'll have a ship skill called Brawler, which reduces your range and increases your detectability of torpedoes and reduces your reload, but I don't recommend that. And also you're going to get a skill called Master Mechanic, which gives you 2 extra repair party charges, which is very good. So that's very nice. So that's what a tank build looks like. So that's the tank build for the Americans. This is the Dispersion build. It basically means all these skills are dedicated to better AP damage, better shell grouping, better accuracy, better range, all that stuff. But you are more prone to taking damage, so keep that in mind. Dispersion builds are going to have skills like Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, and Marksmanship. Those are the kind of the 3 main skills. Next up, cruisers. You get 2 different types of cruiser commanders. This is what's known as the damage build. Basically gives you better range. You'll have skills like Beyond Range, Igniter, and Punch Through. So you get better range, you get better fire chance, AP shell penetration, or you get better dispersion. I don't go for that on this personally because dispersion's great on cruisers. Other one is going to be the agile build. As the name suggests, the whole point is to give you skills that make your ship more agile. You'll have skills like full speed ahead, sponge, velocious, and steer clear, which I guess the other one has anyway. So that's the agile build. Next up, destroyers. You're gonna have 2 destroyer captains. This is a torpedo build. Gonna have basically skills dedicated to making torpedoes hurt more, reload quicker, faster, all that stuff. You'll have skills like subsurface venture, cloak and dagger, torpedo safari, and destroyer be destroyed. So, and next up is the gunboat commander. Basically, skills dedicated to making the guns work better. You'll have skills like observant range, mortar, and 1,000 cuts. So that's basically to make your main guns perform better. I'll tell you, so if we take a look, we mentioned William Sims is the dispersion build, so you see those skills. How you can tell which is which for all the other nations is just by looking. You see, you got the same skills, basically. Usually, the skills don't really change. This is the tank build, as you can see. They don't really change in between the nations, so. Tank build, right here. Dispersion build, right here. For cruisers, see we got Beyond Range, so damage build. William Tennant, we have full speed ahead, so, agile build. And then, let's go to this guy, we have subsurface venture, so we know it's a torpedo build. Philip Land, we have, oh, this is a weird one. I guess this is a unique commander. I've never seen this. Huh. Well, I guess that one's weird. Maximilian von Spee, subsurface venture, torpedo range, Eric Bay, observant rage. So you get the point by now. So those are commanders, basically. I'll tell you that usually for battleships you go with a dispersion build. Secondary battleships you go with a tank build. Cruisers, normally you go with the damage build. Agile cruisers, you go with the agile build. And usually destroyers, you go with the torpedo build. With gunboats, you go with the gunboat build. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into a gameplay of each of the classes. I'm going to take you through battleships first in the Tennessee. Let's go ahead and do it. Oh, wait. Never mind. I don't want to show off that skill, I guess. I'll show you a more standard build. I just got a weird commander last night that I've been trying out. Okay, so first thing I like to do when I load into matches is I like to look and see if we're top tier or not. You see the IV, that means there's tier 4 ships in this game. We're tier 5, and you're only ever going to have 2 tiers in a game. There's going to be one tier that is lower than the other, and one tier that is above. Because there are tier 4 ships, that tells me we are the top tier, so we're going to have an advantage here. They have a T-22 and a Navy. T-22 is concerning. Nuremberg's worth looking at because they can HE spam. Tennessee and New Mexico are worth looking at because if they're played right, they can slap you. So, as a battleship, the easiest way to do well is just going to be, don't reverse at the start of the game. I'll start by saying that. That's a horrible strategy. It takes you out of the fight, and you're not really doing anything. The whole point people do that is because they're afraid of destroyers. If you're far away from the destroyer, you're not going to be able to hit him and shoot him. And if you're far away from the cruisers that are HE spamming you, they're going to have an advantage because they can hit you because you're fat, slow, unagile. You can't hit them because they are. And the more distance they get on you, the better advantage they're going to have. So you want to be closer to them usually. So we're going to go ahead and take a shot at this guy. Flat broadside, we're going to aim at the water line. Oh, never mind, we're waiting on him. He knows we're here. I'm waiting on this shot. I'm not taking it just yet. You notice my consumables down at the bottom. We have a spotter plane. That increases dispersion by like 10% for a short period of time, so I'm going to use that when I get the chance. It doesn't look like he knows what he's doing, so I'm just going to go ahead and take that shot. He's dodging now. We got a pretty solid hit there. Alright, destroyer is spotted. So I am going to drop everything and I'm going to shoot this guy because I know if I don't, our destroyer is going to lose. And I want to be able to help this guy out. Also, the emote wheel, you press that with the right button. You can press Y to set a secondary targeting priority. Also, the A button is going to engage or disengage AA. The whole point of that is basically if you're a destroyer, you can turn off AA because carriers can see you shooting the AA, even if they can't see you. So we're going to set that guy as a secondary target priority. I'm going to damage con that because he double fired us. Like I said, Nuremberg, it is worth looking at. Alright, we're going to go ahead and shoot this guy. Normally, do not damage con a single fire. I do double fires. That's when I damage con. Because single fires you can live with. Double fires will hurt you. I will be shooting this Nuremberg after I take another shot at this Navy. Navy is priority 1, Nuremberg's priority 2. I'm gonna shoot this guy. I can't okay, there we go. Yeah, so typically going flat broadside's a bad idea. There we go. New Mexico's giving us pretty good angle. So is the Leander.
Enemy destroyer blown up.
So I guess we'll see. Now I am still paying attention to this guy. He cannot overmatch us because he's got tiny guns, so I'm not worried about him particularly. I'm gonna go ahead and take this shot, pop the consumable at the water line. We'll get that fourth gun off too. He got overpenned. Fantastic. So Leander typically gets dev struck. That was what an overpen salvo looked like, that one right there, guys. So that's what I was talking about. Cleveland gets those all the time. Against battleships. Cruisers, it'll get nuked. We're going to shoot him again. Those are technically overpens, but I overpenned them enough to actually do damage. Yeah, see, Andrew Doria's got smaller guns, so he's less likely to overpen, but also less likely to Citadel a battleship. Now New Mexico is giving us a flat broadside, so we're going to shoot this guy at the water line. I'm actually going to wait for this main gun to reload. And we're going to take that shot. And then we're going to start angling in, because we don't want to give them a great shot on us. That's pretty solid, I'll take that. We're going to pop another heal. I wait to pop heals until you get the most health out of them. That's about how much you're going to get out of Tennessee heals, so... He just fired his guns, so he's got about 30 seconds till he can shoot us again. Kagura's giving us a pretty solid angle, so I'm going to try and turn and get a shot on him, honestly. Not anymore. Alright. I don't want to sit flat broadside to this guy. I'm going to do turnaround as quickly as I can to start kiting, because if I stayed flat broadside to that guy, I would get slapped. Kiting's going to allow me to angle against this guy, even though he just got a weird penetration on me for 9,000 damage. We're going to take a shot at him with the rear guns real quick. Yeah, see, we just Citadeled him. That's why going flat broadside's a bad idea. Smacked him for 15k. And you see, he only got 2,000 on us because we were well angled to him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start working my way into the cap. Don't forget to play the objectives, guys. It's not just about shooting the enemy ships. And actually, they're starting to take that objective. Look at the top, the points. Right now we're in the lead. If they get 2 or 3 caps, that's not going to be the case. And they can win on points, even if we do the best job in the world of mopping the floor with their ships. So do not ignore the caps. Play the objectives. I am aiming up for the superstructure / the guns, because that's going to be my best spot to get damage on. Even though the Italian battleships are a little bit hard to hit those kind of shots on. I don't want to... So my problem is I know the New Mexico is right there. And I know he's going to slap me if I turn too quickly. So I'm watching. He's not giving us an angle anymore, so I'm waiting. There's the New Mexico. Taking a shot at the waterline. We're popping that dispersion because that is the shot we're wanting to get. A flat broadside battleship. We got him for 10k. Kagura's shooting at us. I would be playing more aggressive to angle. He actually got us pretty good there. But normally Kagura's guns don't work all that well, so... Also, note the time. Oh shit, that's not good. We got lucky there. We got lucky he missed that shot. Otherwise, he could have slapped us just as hard as we slapped him. So if you look at the orange circles, that's going to tell you, that's going to show you how long you have till you reload for each one of the guns. And then you've of course got a timer. Each one represents a single gun. Because there are 4 guns, there are 4 little quarters of the circle.
Enemy battleship sighted.
See? Angled. He got nothing. So, if they keep not giving us a great angle, what I'm going to do is switch shell types. Right now we're shooting AP, which you've kind of noticed is great for broadsides, but not so great when they're doing this, unless you shoot the superstructure. So we're going to aim for the superstructure real quick, and we're actually going to switch shell types real quick to HE. And I will show you what HE behaves like. Yeah, see, we only got 1,000 damage there because he is angled. So at this point, HE is going to detonate as soon as it hits something, which usually means you're getting guaranteed damage, but less of it. However, that also means you have the opportunity to get damage over time by fires. So, there's a couple of different parts to it. So we're going to aim superstructure. That's usually the best spot. We got 3,000, which is a little better. Not what we were wanting, though. Especially considering there's 2 of them left, and they're starting to get us pretty good. They're trying to get into will to rebuild for each other, too. We're going to go ahead and damage con that, even though it is a single fire, just because... Yeah, we got nothing there. That's frustrating. Alright, we need to take one of them out. So the most defensible position we can take up in this situation is bow on. Or like this, basically. That's not good. That's going to be our death. Yeah, they're just...
Problem solved, sir. The ship is on fire.
I think that's going to be our death right there. Not quite. Oh, yeah, that is. Alright. So, we did get killed. And it looks like the enemy team is going to win this one. However, not necessarily due to us. We put up a very valiant effort, did 99,000 damage, which most tiers means you did pretty solid. Tier 5 is above average, especially a Tier 4, Tier 5 game. I did most of the damage to the team. At this point, things aren't looking too fantastic, although, well, no, they have a destroyer still, too. So, not the outcome we wanted, but we did try. And I would say, you know, if you do this, you've done pretty well for your team, usually. And even though we did not get the cap, we did deny them the cap. It's just the team kind of fell apart, but unfortunately. Oh, it's not going to go good for this guy. Yeah. Alright, let's go back to port. That one's going to be a loss. Alright, let's show you a cruiser. Let's go up to Tier 6 for the cruiser. I could show you the Talon, but that's kind of like... Talon's honestly like a mini battleship. Honestly. It's very, very good. But... let's go up to Tier 7. I will show you... filter this to just cruisers. I'm going to show you the Baltimore. I think that's going to be the best thing. Because, you know, this thing can bow tank some things, which is nice for high tier play, but it also gets overmatched by a lot of things, which is nice to show you what to do for most cruisers, because most of the time you're not going to be able to bow tank in a cruiser. Okay, so I'm looking here. They have a Missouri, which is a Iowa with a radar. It's a very rare ship. It's actually probably one of the rarest ships in the game. This is a carrier game, so you'll get a taste for that. They have two Sommers, which are very scary torpedo boats. These are not tech tree ships. They're premium ships. They're campaign ships. So you're not going to see them terribly often. So this map's a little weird. This island, sometimes you can not get spotted, sometimes you will get spotted. I'm usually in a cruiser gonna have HE loaded, and then you have AP whenever you get the opportunity. If we get we can bow tank everything in this game except for the Missouri. We know we have a Saipan on our side, which is a broken-ass carrier. We have a Black, which is a very good destroyer. Alright, so there's the battleship. We cannot bow tank him. We're going to go ahead and shoot HE at his superstructure. Right now, we are not spotted. Oh, hello, Sommers. So I'm going for superstructure. I will be shooting that destroyer as soon as I get a chance. Oh, there we go. There's our chance. We're going to go ahead and shoot him. If we don't shoot him, we are being a liability to our team, not a help. Because destroyers have the most ability to impact the game generally. Alright, he's disengaged. Let's go ahead and continue with the Missouri here. No fires. Interesting. But you will notice that we can laud that island pretty well. There's a fire. The Riga is basically a worse Baltimore. That's the way I have of putting it. You notice that icon up there? We're spotted by radar. Probably... It could be the Missouri, or it could be the Riga. Probably the Riga. Because the Missouri's going to be saving that for the destroyer. Alright, let's go ahead and shoot the Sommers. We're going to go ahead and load AP.
Teammate, I need your support.
Don't let that salvo fool you.
Get back.
You can get a lot better. In fact, if this guy comes broadside to us, we will get a lot better. I think he's going to go for the ram. Yeah, he didn't want us to get that broadside, so he just went for the shameless ram. So, that is unfortunate. Not a whole lot we could have done to dodge it, though. And that does take our radar cruiser off the board, if nothing else. The Missouri is pretty well wiped once this North Carolina comes around. Let me go ahead and get you guys another one in a cruiser here. I'm not happy with that. Let's do the Edinburgh. And let's just show you that you don't need HE with the Edinburgh. By the way, guys, if you do enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. It definitely helps us out. I am going to be dropping a Republic Day 1 review, so be on the lookout for that. I'll probably end up with the first one, honestly. What up, Jacob? So, we have fairly long-range torps. Usually, in these games, destroyers will flood that area, so I'm just going to go ahead and launch them. I don't have any other use for them, and I know they have pretty good range. You know, so there's a chance they hit something. And it doesn't cost us anything, so Might as well. Us, and Ochakov, and a Georgia. Oh, speaking of, that right there is the only ship in the game, soon to be anyway, once we no longer go against legendaries with the introduction of Tier 8. You won't go up against the Yamato. That is going to be the only ship in the game you can come across that can overmatch you. So, keep that in mind. It's not one you're going to see too often. Don't let it fool you. They have a Vladivostok. We are top tier. They have a Lightning. It's a single destroyer game. That we have an Akazuki. The Akazuki, good chance, is going to beat that Lightning to the ground. There's that Colorado. So, we are the ones spotting him, so we can't really smoke up at this point. I'm going to go ahead and take some shots and just kind of dodge. That's my goal. They both shot the Ochakov. That figures. Ochakov's a pretty busted ship, so... I'm going to turn around and start kiting instead of sailing towards them. Now, look at that. 9,000 damage. That's a battleship salvo, basically. We do have to be careful because he's probably going to slap us. Nope, undershot us. We're good. Belfast 43. We're going to go ahead and smoke up here because now we're not the thing that's spotting them. And we kind of beached ourselves. 7K. We're shooting this guy instead of the battleships because he has a radar cruiser, so he's higher priority. He has more ability to impact the game.
Smoke screen set.
Also, he can radar us in our smoke screen. Now, you might be wondering, where are these ships coming from that I did not see you go over? Well, they're premium ships. So... okay, we're good there. They were either bought in the store under the premium section, or they were campaign ships. If you are wondering what to buy, if anything, the campaigns are by far the best value. They give you ships, they give you gold, they give you premium time, and they give you consumables, all kinds of stuff. And usually the ships are insanely good. I know that that's not where the, thing says they're going. However, I figure there's a good chance they're going to turn in. So, because we have tiny guns, these are 155s, they have great AP, but they're tiny, so we're going to shoot the superstructure instead. That's our best chance of getting hits, getting damage. Now I'm noticing in my peripherals Scharnhorst shooting at me, so I'm going to turn. Oh shit, Iowa's shooting at me too. That could have gotten a lot worse. Now you notice those torpedoes, because we placed them there, it's going to pay off. So don't always just shoot torpedoes where the track says they're going. Now this guy's shooting us, so we're going to shoot him back. That's the way I work. You want to shoot me, I will shoot you right back, sir.
Enemy battleship destroyed.
We have to turn in to bow tank this guy because we have the 30mm bow. However, we would have gotten nuked had we not. Right there. Now we are getting a little too close, which is starting to get to be a problem. Hopefully he gets torps off. Nope. It's on us. So at this point, we're going to try and close the distance and try and torpedo the Iowa. Looks like those torps look good. Got him with one. If he is on damage con, that's devastating. He's perma-flooded. Popping another heal here. I think, yep. Nice. Now this guy does not overmatch us, so he has nothing to do but sit there and wait for his death.
We destroyed an enemy battleship.
He did get us pretty good through the gun there. So we've got left side torps loaded. Now, we do have tube by tube torps. We only have 3 of them. He got us. We're gonna get him, though. He is gonna damage con that. But, take a look. We got 3 kills. We got 156,000 damage. So, does the Edinburgh struggle that it doesn't have HE? No, absolutely not. And in fact, sometimes if you get them flat broadside, even if it's at range, because of that damage you can get from that superstructure, nasty, absolutely nasty. Now don't be fooled. It's not like, you know, better than every other cruiser, but don't discount it because it doesn't have HE. Even destroyers, for whatever reason, instead of getting overpen for minimal damage, they take massive chunks if they go flat broadside to you, because of the weird penetration characteristics of that HE, of the AP. At this point, we got a cap, we got 3 kills, and 156,000 damage, so it's just on our team to win this. But they do have a destroyer left when we do not, which is not good. That was a good chunk. He hit him in the superstructure. Okay, so that's cruisers right there. Next up, let's do a destroyer for you guys. Let's do my Akazuki. I need to get the Kaguro already. So this is a torpedo boat. Guns kind of suck, but that's what a lot of you are going to be doing anyway. So I'm going to show you this. We're running a Torp Commander, low-level Torp Commander, but it is a Torp Commander. This is our build. I don't recommend doing Torpedo Safari. I would instead do Perceptive, just so that way you know where the destroyer is, the enemy destroyer. So let's go ahead and do it. Alright, I'll catch you later, Jacob. Alright, they have a Gajamada, which we cannot beat. Well, we might be able to. Kid, we cannot beat. Black, we cannot beat. This is the problem with the torpedo boat destroyers, because you go up against a jack-of-all-trades destroyer, and you're in deep shit. So, take a look. We have 10-kilometer range on the torps. We're located, and you also see the little ring that's pointing outwards. That's telling us where the nearest thing to us is. They have the same located emblem as we do. Usually, this is a skill that is only on American light cruisers, American cruisers, if they pick the right commander, or on destroyers, or Russian cruisers. I'm going to dump torps into the cap, just on the off chance that we hit something. We have a King George and a Bismarck backing us up. So, because I'm in a torpedo boat, I have to play very passive. I'm still going to spot, and I'm still going to go get those destroyers when I can. But I can't just go out and take them on in a gunfight, because I will lose without help. It looks like that destroyer is going to be going around the island. If somebody has a shot on that guy, he's going to get screwed up. We're going to turn around because we know where he's at. However, if we start seeing him going towards our battleships, we're going to go out and try and spot for him. No shots on battleships yet, so we're still launching torps at where we think the destroyer is, hoping to get a torpedo on him. We don't know what it is, but we do know we can't beat it. The kid. Torps are going to miss, unfortunately. We're going to go and smoke up, because, as you can see, things are not going to go our way. So, that's the problem with these destroyers, man. Especially at high tier, I don't recommend running them. Kajimata's not doing good, which is good. So now we're going to try and torpedo the battleship. We're going to space out the torps a little bit. That's good. That was a little terrifying. Somebody shoot this guy, please. Don't let him get away with that. There's Kansas. That's not gonna hit. Okay, so... Oh, we just saw the... What the fuck? What an idiot. Shooting at our destroyer? Oh, never mind. Shooting at somebody else, I guess. So we're going for what is known as a YOLO rush. Don't really recommend doing that a lot, but we had an opportunity. Alright, so now what we're going to do as a destroyer is get into some caps. Closest thing to us is over there. 10.0. 11. Okay. Could be a destroyer, though. More likely the Colorado, though. So we've got two options. One is get into this cap. Two is get out there, defend that cap. They already have a Benson out there doing it. And there are a lot of juicy targets out there. But I'm gonna get into this cap. Bad day. That guy should be dead. Alright, we're gonna turn our guns towards the kid, because we want to kill him. Now we have a fair fight. Well, not a fair fight, we have an unfair fight, which is what we want. The destroyer is a higher priority target to kill than the battleships. So it looks like he may still just be sitting in that smokescreen, so we're just going to dump torps at the smokescreen. And demonstrate, hopefully, why you don't just sit in a smokescreen. We want this cap first, because we've already invested all this time into it. There we go, cap's ours. Yep. Oh, he barely missed the torps. Okay. That's alright, we got him. If he was staying in there, though, he would have been screwed. So there's the Veneno, which is kiting out to the edge of the earth. That'll take us way out of the fight. We don't want to go get him. We're going to go for these two out here. I think we're gonna end up winning on points because we've dominated the caps. So this is actually a good teaching moment. It didn't matter if, you know, there were more of them than us at this point. Because of our cap advantage, they would be at a severe disadvantage. And we're just gonna win on points. You can get points by killing enemy ships, but you don't You can take away the enemy's points, rather. So, either way, you're still going to want to get into the caps. So, that was a torp boat destroyer. I'm going to give you guys one more with a different kind of destroyer. I'll do the Moss, actually, just to show you the benefit of having a destroyer that can actually get into those gunfights without constantly having to worry or make it unfair. Even though this thing does have sonar, which is pretty unfair. And then we will have a 2-hour tutorial which will just about cover it, I think. Alright, we are top tier. It's a carrier game. They have an Orkan, which I know has a radar. And they have a Belfast, which I know has a radar, which is important to know what has radar as a destroyer. I know Belfast has radar. It's British. British, a lot of times, will have radar. American, a lot of times, at high tiers, will have radar, or if it's a premium ship. Russians, most of the time, are going to have radar. And that's about all you have to watch out for. We're located, so pretty good chance the Orkan is across from us. I think we can beat him in a gunfight, honestly. But we do have to worry about the carrier spotting us as well. So even if you don't have range, this is sometimes a useful skill just so that way you know where people are. We're going to launch some torps there and there. Maybe we hit the destroyer, who knows. There's the Belfast. There's a lot of... There's the Orkan. We know he's coming for us. And we know he's got a lot of friends to help him out, so... I don't want to get focused by him and the Belfast. Oh man, look how close we were to hitting this guy. We didn't hit him, but look how close we came. So we're going to go ahead and smoke up now and pop our sonar, because he is in sonar range of us. And now we can take shots at him. He can't shoot back at us. Now he's radaring us, but it's only going to last for 15 seconds, so we'll be alright. Nice. Alright, and we're good. Now the Belfast and the carrier are the two main threats to us. We're getting this cap. If we get the opportunity, we will send some torps to Fuso's way. What is our torpedo range? 8.5. We're getting there. We're launching one rack. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to launch the other in hopes of perma-flooding him. So even if we don't kill him by the torps, the hope is that we will kill him by perma-flooding. Alright, now let's go ahead and pull back a little bit. Things are looking good. Things are looking real good. Looks like we're gonna get him with 1. Okay. So he could damage con that. No permaflood, he was still on damage con. That is unfortunate. Okay, time to start pulling back. The Belfast can radar us. We're in radar range right now, which is very dangerous. Miyoko, we don't really want to tango with either.
Maschinenboost aktiviert.
I'm going to go and load AP real quick. Sometimes, if you get a cruiser that gets nuked easily, you can take a quick little AP pot shot at him, or 2. Maybe a Citadel him. We did 2,000 damage there. Another 1,000. If we were closer, we might have been able to Citadel him. Or if we were in the tier 7, which has 150mm guns, those probably would have been Citadels. Slow back. Nah, let's stick with AP for now. Let's not get too close, though. We're going to disengage AA. He's going to be kiting, it looks like. That guy, I think, is AFK.
Attention. Reporting the target position.
Yeah. Let's just take some pot shots at him, then. Actually, maybe I shouldn't. Those torps are going to get him anyway. See, these fools are not shooting the Miyoko. The Dallas is not a threat, so don't worry about him. They're just looking for free damage, which I think is incredibly stupid. Oh, there he is. Well, that's not good. Might be too late for him, though. Maybe that was the AFK strat. Sometimes they will pretend to be AFK in hopes that a destroyer will do something stupid like shoot him. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's a stupid move. And for him it ended up being a stupid move. Oh, that's not good.
Wir haben einen gegnerischen Kreuzer versenkt.
We're smoking up. We're triple fired right now. Not at all what we wanted. We're in damage con. Slowed AP real quick.
Nebelwand gelegt. Problem gelöst.
Nice work.
There we go. Alright, now we're getting into the cap. And unless we are incredibly stupid, the Belfast is the only thing that can now spot us, but the enemy team at this point is pretty well wiped, so... So you can kind of see the benefits of having a ship that's not just torpedo focused. Having those guns is crucial. You know, had that Orkan not died when he did, who knows what would have happened. This game could have gone very differently. Even if they aren't torpedoing things, they have a very, very big impact just on the spotting, you know, benefits that they provide.
Maschinenboost aktiviert.
Alright, we got this. We're heading to this cap now. We're not going to get there because they're going to lose before then, but...
Unser Sieg ist in Sicht.
King George is dead. Oh, I guess not. As soon as he's dead, the game's over. It's over in like 30 seconds anyway, but... There it goes. That's game. Yeah, so top the leaderboard right there. 74K. Not bad. So, let's take a look at our service record here. And take a look at what we did. The first two games ended up being losses, but this one, I mean, the guy just ended up ramming us. So, not a whole lot we could have done there, unfortunately. He just knew we were going to beat him. Tennessee game, you know, we tried our best, but sometimes it's just not in the cards. And then every other game past that's a win. You know? And usually we placed pretty high up, actually. We were top of the leaderboard or next to it in every single one of these games. Worst we got was third, and that's not bad. Makes you the top 33%. So... Well, guys, that is how this game works, basically. All the classes are explained now. What to do is explained in all of them. I went over the highs and lows of, you know, each one of these lines, right? Or I went over basically... Oh, that's pretty cool looking. I might keep that. That's pretty cool looking. Alright. So, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Went over 2 hours. I do have, if you want more information, I have more tutorials up, but I wanted to redo the main tutorial just because those games weren't fantastic. And I wanted to give you guys a better look at, you know, what you can do, basically, following the lessons that I gave. So, I have a more in-depth tutorial of each ship class, both destroyers, cruisers, and battleships up on my channel. If you did enjoy, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like. Discord link is in the description. Be sure to check out my other videos, and watch out for my Republic review and probably the Soyuz review on Monday. But with that said, guys, I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. I may come back and stream in maybe an hour or so. Because I got nothing to do today. My girlfriend's busy. I gotta go to the gym, but that's it. So, with that said, I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for tuning in.